I literally just have a camera and my story and my heart that I'm pouring out to you. Hey sister, welcome home. Hey girl, how are you doing? How was your week? How are things going? I know you and I don't know each other, but we are going to get to know each other very soon. And I can actually start by telling you that if I am being completely honest, I really do not want to do this right now. Like, contrary to popular belief, I really do not want to be sitting here recording this podcast episode, but I have to do it. I have to be obedient to God. Every good thing starts with an origin story, so I think that it is only right that the first episode is the origin story of Sisters in Love. So I just want to explain where the name comes from, share how I kind of got about deciding to do this podcast, and also just share a little bit about my faith journey and whatever else decides to come out of my mouth. Okay, so firstly, let me actually just start with the goal for this podcast. Like, I've always wanted to start a podcast actually, but it was a very self-centered motive. Like, I really just wanted to share my stories. I just wanted to chat about what I wanted to chat about. It was just gonna be like a me kind of thing. I really just always wanted to start a podcast, but I'd always say that no, I'll start it later on. Like, I'll start it when I have more time for it. I'll start it when I have more resources. I'll start it when I can have like a podcast mic, maybe find a studio I can record in, and all of these things that I felt I needed before I began. But then I felt an inkling on my heart that, you know what, you actually need to start this thing sooner than you're planning to start it. And I just felt that in my heart, and I just felt like God was telling me to start this space, and I prayed on it and I asked for confirmation, and I feel like I got confirmation, which I'm going to share with you. But yeah, here I am now. Sitting in obedience, although it is not really what I want to be doing, if I'm honest, because like I said, I wanted all of these other resources before I started this. I also don't really feel confident in starting this. I don't know if I'm the right person for the job. I'm scared to mess up. I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, you know, but I'm just like, hey, let me use what I have and let me get started, and God will guide the way and lead me and hopefully help me help you, you know. So before we get into where the name for the podcast comes from, let me just share a little bit of my faith journey. So I kind of feel like I've always been a lukewarm Christian. I came to that realization not so long ago. So I grew up in a Christian household. Even when I was in high school, I would go to Bible study. We went to boarding school, go to church on Sundays. You know, I did have a relationship with God. I knew God, you know, for myself as well. It wasn't really a borrowed faith from my parents. However, I came to the realization recently that I'm actually a lukewarm Christian, and by lukewarm, that just means that like I'm not really on fire for God, but at the same time I'm not cold for God. Like, I'm just somewhere in between. I'm just warm, you know. And so sometimes that can look like loving God but not obeying his commandments, loving God but not living for God, loving God but not living a holy life, loving God but not living a righteous life, you know, loving God but just it not showing in your actions, you know. So I came to that realization and I was just like, no man, I really need to make a change. Like, I have been a Christian for so long, but I've never gone deeper in my faith. I've always stayed at the surface. If it was a house, I've always stayed in the lounge. And I got that analogy actually from the Activate South Africa event where Pastor Sarah Jakes Roberts and Pastor Torre Roberts came to SA, and he was saying a lot of Christians are like that. Like, we're comfortable to just stay in the lounge. Some people even on the porch, you know, they don't even want to come into the house. But like, we need to go deeper in God because there's still so much more that he wants to share with us that are probably in the bedrooms, in the bathrooms, you know. And you only show people that you are in relationship with, people that you trust, the deeper parts of your home. Like, if you have guests, you're probably going to have them in the lounge. You'll have your visitors in the lounge. If there are people close to you, maybe you'll show them your bedroom, you'll show them what's in your wardrobe and all of these other things. So the closer we get to God, then the more he will reveal to us. So I realized that I was a person who was just always in the lounge, and I realized that no, man, I'm not content with being in the lounge anymore. Like, I want to go deeper into God. I want to go into the closets and crevices and everything, you know. So I realized that it was time for me to make a change, and I actually found a lot of verses about, you know, lukewarmness and being lukewarm and not picking a side. And I think a lot of us actually really struggle with that. Like, we say that we love God, but then we don't really live like we love God, you know. And we sometimes also just take his grace for granted, that we kind of just use it as an excuse to live the way we want, because we know that he will always forgive us, you know, or whatever our reasoning is, whatever our logic is. But I came to the realization that enough is enough and it is time to actually go further in my journey, because why would I want to be a Christian for so many years and still just stay on the surface level, and there's no growth in the relationship, there's no depth in the relationship, there's no going further, you know. The Bible also talks about how, like, when you are a young child you drink milk, but then when you get older you need to put milk away and you need to eat solid food. And it was time for me to start eating solid food. So that realization is what made me realize that I actually want to live my life for God, and in one of those ways I want to use the gifts and talents that I was given to glorify God and to advance his kingdom, because ultimately I feel like that's our purpose on this earth, to make disciples of all nations, you know. And I just felt like I wanted to use my gift to glorify God and to talk about God, you know. And I know that this prompting came from God as well, because I always said that I will never ever be a faith-based content creator. Imagine that God would give me the gift of content creation and I would boldly say I will never use that to glorify you, you know. And again, it came from selfish motives, because I did not want to put my reputation on the line. I did not want to boldly claim my faith and then fall short of perfection or make a mistake, or, you know, any of those kinds of things. So the way I thought about it the other day is that I was protecting my reputation at the expense of the advancement of God's kingdom. And it was just really wild to think, you know, that I would put myself on such a pedestal that I did not want to be associated with faith in case that would harm my reputation. But then I realized that, you know what, how can I have all of these gifts, all of these resources that God has blessed me with, and not use them, you know, for his glory? So that's when I thought, you know what, I actually want to do something for God's glory. And that is how the thought of this podcast was put into my mind. So like I said, I've always wanted to start a podcast, but of course it was going to be very me centered. And then I felt this inkling to start a podcast again, and I was just like, but God, I don't really know if it's from you or if it's just the thoughts in my head, because it's something I have wanted to do. So I'm like, if it's you, please confirm it, like give me signs, you know. So then randomly one day I was sharing a conversation I was having with one of my sisters, and she sent me like long voice notes. I also sent her long voice notes, and then my one sister responded and she was like, you should start a podcast, blah 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 blah. And I said, wait, what? And I thought, okay, that's a bit random, but I was just like, God, I don't know if this is me hearing you or if it's just in my mind. So if really and truly you want me to start this thing, give me another sign. You know, I just wanted so much confirmation. And then a girl on Instagram DM'd me, and she was basically like, thank you so much for always inspiring us, like it doesn't go unnoticed, and blah 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 blah. And I was just like, what? That's crazy. That was also another confirmation, because I feel like my purpose is linked to inspiring others, and I really do just want everyone to live their best lives, to live out their God-given dreams, to live up to their highest, fullest potential before their days are done. And that was just kind of confirmation, because she also used very specific wording that was just like, there's no way this can be a coincidence. And I was even like, wow, thank you so much for sending me this DM. Like, you don't even know it, but you're low-key an answered prayer, you're low-key confirmation for something I've been seeking. And she was like, wow, that's crazy, because I even hesitated sending you this DM. I wasn't sure if I wanted to send you this DM, but then I just felt like I needed to. And I was just like, wow, God. But yeah, I just felt like so much peace about it in my heart, and I felt like I heard from God in various ways. And then it was now time to come up with the name. So let's actually get into why I decided to call this Sisters in Love. So initially I was still very self-centered. I wanted to call it the Princess Diaries because I feel like it's so cute, right? Like, I'm a princess, we're all princesses. It was coming from a place of like, we're daughters of the Most High, you know, we're the king's daughters, so the Princess Diaries, you know. And I really wanted to use the word diaries because these are going to be very raw, very real, very honest conversations, like the kind of conversations you would actually write down in a diary. That's how honest and transparent I want the space to get. So I thought the Princess Diaries was like really, really cute, you know. But then I thought there's already the Princess Diaries like movie, and anytime someone has to search up the Princess Diaries, that's probably what's going to come up first. And I also don't want to find myself in a legal copyright battle in the future, so I kind of had to let that name go. But I was really dying for the Princess Diaries, so I was using like AI and just trying to say like, please help me come up with names for my podcast and all of these things. And then I thought of the name, not thought of the name, one of the suggestions actually was the Princess and the Cross, and I thought, wow, that's a nice name, you know. So yeah, I actually really fell in love with that name because I felt like it was very fitting, you know, the Princess and the Cross. So I actually tried to secure that name as an Instagram handle just for the future, you know. And oddly enough, it was not working. Like, it was just saying error, error, error the whole time, and I'm like, what's going on? Like, I've literally never encountered this. And I tried to go to like support to say like, I'm trying to open a new account, it just keeps saying error, you know. And then I tried to log into the account, and it was like, the account has been banned for violating community guidelines, you'll like never be able to log into it basically. And I'm thinking, how, Sway, this is a brand new account, it has no post, no nothing, I've never actually even entered the account, so how can it have all these violations? But I was just like, hey, you know what, maybe that's not supposed to be the name. So I'm like, you know what, let me not force it. And at that time I just decided to like go into some worship and all of that. It wasn't necessarily podcast related, I actually really just wanted to worship. So yeah, I got into some worship and all, and then I also prayed, and I was just like, you know what, God, help me come up with a name. And like, you know, if it's not supposed to be that name, then so be it. So yeah, it turns out it wasn't supposed to be that name. When I got out of worship, I thought of the name Sisters in Love, and I tried to secure that as an Instagram handle, and it actually went through. And I was like, okay, wow. But I also kind of felt God telling me that it doesn't matter what it's called, but you know, it's still going to do its work, it's still going to do the purpose. However, the reason why the Princess Diaries and the Princess and the Cross didn't go through, I kind of felt convicted that I was still being self-centered, and I was still coming from a selfish place, you know, making it about me and my story and all of these things. And in as much as, yes, I'm going to share my stories, I'm going to share my thoughts and all of that, I kind of wanted the name to always remind me that it's not just about me, you know, like it's about you and me and every other woman out there that wants to grow in their faith as well. And it's about us as sisters coming together as a community to help each other out, to inspire each other, to uplift, to walk this faith journey together, and to be very honest in that walk as well. Sometimes I felt like Christian content just wasn't always honest enough, which I have come across some creators that are a bit more transparent, and it's always very like relatable and very real when they share their struggles with this journey and what they're going through. I kind of always felt like Christians were very, very perfect people, you know, and even online, like they didn't struggle with certain things. Like, they always read their Bible, they always pray, they always walk righteously, they never falter, you know. And I kind of felt like I just couldn't relate with that. Like, I could not relate with being perfect, and I felt like the pressure to be perfect also kind of kept me on a surface level relationship with God. But when I started seeing a lot more imperfect Christians, a lot more real, relatable Christians, raw, honest Christians, I felt like, wow, this is a breath of fresh air. So sometimes people do struggle to pray. Wow, so sometimes people do fall short of His grace. Wow, so sometimes people actually do struggle to go to church, they struggle to do this. Wow, sometimes people are bored by worship music. Wow, sometimes people read the Bible and don't understand it. And I felt like, wow, okay, like there's actually real people out there, you know. So that's the kind of content that I want to put out as well, like just sharing this journey honestly and having conversations in the comments and just coming together as a community to walk this faith journey together. And yeah, so sisters in love, let's get back to that. So sisters in love, the whole basis of this podcast and foundation of it is going to be love, because I feel like God is love, and that is really the foundation of the faith. You know, it's about loving God, loving others, loving ourselves. And so I really wanted love to be a core word as well with the name. When I thought of sisters in love, I thought of how, like, when you are a family, or when someone marries into another family and you become someone's sister-in-law, sometimes people call it sisters in love, because it's love that brought this family together and made them one, and now they are sisters in love. And I kind of feel like we are all one heavenly family, you know. Our God is love, God is our Father, God loves us, so by default we are sisters in love, you know. So I loved the idea of that, but also sisters in love in terms of like being in love with one another, you know. Like when you have a sibling, whether it is your sister or your brother or whoever, you literally love your sibling so deeply, you know. And that's just kind of the energy that I want this space to carry, just that deep love, that being in love with someone. And when you're in love with someone, you want to help them, you know, you want them to be happy, you want to help them become the best version of themselves, you just want to be so good to someone that you're in love with, you know. And I feel like if we are all sisters in love, then we're all going to just be love and just help each other, and it's just going to be a beautiful space. But yes, that is where the name came from. And again, it would always remind me that this is bigger than me, and it is actually about the bigger community at large. But yeah, that is how the name Sisters in Love came about, and that is also how this podcast came about. So this podcast came about basically from me wanting to actually live fully for God, and to also share my faith, and to also bring other people to the faith, to advance God's kingdom, to make disciples of all nations, and also to provide a safe space for people going on this Christian journey together. Like, this is not going to be a podcast for the perfect people, the people who have it all figured out, the people who always get it right. No, this is going to be a space for everybody. It's going to be a space for those who are still figuring it out. It's going to be a space for those who don't really get it. It's going to be a space for people who have questions, you know, because that is where I am as well. I'm not super deep in my faith where I would want to be. I'm on the journey to going there, and I would really like to go on this journey with you guys. So yeah, and I also want to use my gifts to glorify God and his kingdom, because that is what a child of God should do. And like I said, this is just me moving in obedience, and that's a whole other episode. But I am really just moving in obedience. Logically, I really don't want to be doing this. I'm even filming this. I'm sure it's almost 11 p.m. I've had the longest day. I just came from shooting. I was shooting for like 3 hours. I went to the mall around like just before 4. I only got back home like around past 9. So I am really exhausted, but I promised God that I would film this video. I would film the first episode this week. I'm not going to upload any of these episodes yet. I don't feel ready to do so, but I am going to record them because that's what I promised the Lord, okay? And I have a million and one things to do, but I'm being faithful and being obedient to doing this because yeah, it's important to be obedient. And like I said, logically I don't want to do this because I've never really spoken about my faith so boldly. Like, yes, I have had videos on my TikTok here and there where I share testimony or where I speak about my faith a little bit, but it has never been like the core foundation of any of my content, simply because, like I said, I was really scared of talking about my faith and then messing up. So yeah, and me doing this now doesn't mean that I am confident in my ability to be perfect or to never mess up or whatever, but I am confident in God's ability to use that mess for my good, should there be one, but God forbid that there is one. But honestly, Like I said, I also don't feel like I'm the right person for the job. I don't think I have the best words. I don't think I know the Bible deeply. I don't think I have like the best revelations. This might even be one big mistake. I might regret it. Like, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not sure of anything. But there is also a Bible verse that talks about how you can never be sure of anything, but you must just do it anyways, because you don't know the right time to do something. You should just do it and see. I'm actually going to find that verse. I'll leave actually all the verses in the description box below, the ones of being lukewarm, as well as this one that I'm talking about now. And also, again, I really don't want to make this space heavily about me, so I'm not even going to be like introducing myself or having my social media handles. Like, one thing I really want is for my intentions to stay pure and my heart to stay pure, and that is why I even decided, like, I don't even think I'm going to actively try to push this channel or push this podcast. Like, I'm not going to put any like hashtags or SEO or all of that stuff. Maybe I'll do it at a later stage. I'm just trusting the Lord that whoever needs the videos and the episodes, that person will find them. I'm not going to like actively be pushing this thing, well, at least not yet, because again, I don't want to forget why I'm starting it, and I don't want to get carried away with the wrong intentions, and I don't want to get carried away with gaining a following and all of that stuff. I kind of feel like it might ruin the experience, or it might make it more businessy and less authentic and less genuine. You know, at some point when I'm stronger in my faith, or when I'm more confident in my ability to not idolize those things, then maybe I will start like pushing it. But as of right now, I'm just gonna record the episodes, put them out there, and hope that they find the right person, you know. So yeah. Oh, I actually even forgot another part. You see why I feel like, am I the right person for the job? The other reason why I wanted to call it Sisters in Love is because there's love at home. But I don't know if I should maybe leave that for another episode. But yeah, basically, heaven is our home. There's love there, and we should always remember that there is always love at home. And when you have love at home, you don't need to look for it outside. You don't need to look for it elsewhere. You don't need to do other things to try and get something you have already. It's like the equivalent of when you want something and your parents say that there's food at home, you know, so you can eat at home. You don't have to eat outside. The same way, there is love at home. So when you're loved at home, you can move in the world like someone who is loved, and you don't have to go searching out there for it, and you don't have to do anything to obtain it, and you don't even have to be moved by fake love or anything like that, because you know that there's love at home. And I want this to be your home and to be your place where you feel loved and you find love, and hopefully we build a beautiful sisterhood where we can all just like be happy and in love, you know, and just help each other out and go on this journey. And I'm just super excited, but I'm more excited to do God's work. Like, I'm just more excited for what God is going to do through this platform, and the community that's going to be built, and the people I'm going to get to interact with, you know, and just how I hope to be helpful to you, and I hope that you will help me as well, and just this beautiful cycle of help and love and just goodness, you know. So yeah, I'm really stepping out in faith, and I'm really just being courageous, and I'm really just putting myself out there. And it's super scary, I won't lie, but I have to answer God's call, and I have to be obedient. And I hope that whatever is on your heart to do, this is your sign that you should do it. There is no perfect time to do it. There are no perfect resources to do it. Just do it, girl. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. Okay. But yes, that is the origin story of Sisters in Love. Super excited. I don't even know what the other episodes are going to be about, but I'm just going to pray that God guides me and the Holy Spirit guides me to talk about the things that need to be talked about. But I really don't know. I don't have a plan for this. I don't have a strategy for this. I don't have anything of that sort. I literally just have a camera and my story and my heart that I'm pouring out to you. But that is literally all. I have nothing else. So God, let your will be done. Thank you so much for watching / listening to this episode, and I hope to see you in the next one, sister. Always remember that God loves you and I love you, sister. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.